When you think about businesses that are selling through the roof, Allbirds or Skims, sure, you think about a great product, a cool brand, and brilliant marketing. But an often overlooked secret is actually the businesses behind the business, making selling, and for the shoppers buying, simple. For millions of businesses, that business is Shopify. Nobody does selling better than Shopify, home of the #1 checkout on the planet. And the not-so-secret secret, with Shop Pay, that boosts conversions up to 50%, meaning way less carts going abandoned and way more sales going. So if you're into growing your business, your commerce platform better be ready to sell wherever your customers are scrolling or strolling on the web, in your store, in their feed, and everywhere in between. Businesses that sell more sell on Shopify. Upgrade your business and get the same checkout Skims uses. Sign up for your $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/audioboom. All lowercase. Go to shopify.com/audioboom to upgrade your selling today. Shopify.com/audioboom.
What it did was I couldn't distract myself anymore. I couldn't run away from the, whatever you want to call it, still small voice, the spirit voice, all of the things that were alive within my DNA, within myself.
Granddaughter Crow, I could not do justice to your background and description because you've done so much. It's hard for me to narrow the focus. So if you would do me a favor, give me a backstory, your background, because there's so much here to work with in terms of your history, your dad, your mom, the whole 9 yards. I do have one of your books. You have another one coming out. What is it about you that drew you to the lifestyle you now live? Because you've come a long way from that initial start of trying to fit in and figure out what social background you belong to.
Yes. So I have what I thought was a very unique story. But after publishing the story, it wasn't as unique as I thought. Mine is, it has a different spin on it, but this understanding, being born a Gen X woman in 1970 and feeling like a quote unquote other is very actually common theme to a lot of different social economic groups and cultural groups. So let me give you a little bit of insight. My father, Reverend Jackson Yazzie, he was born in 1932 on the Navajo reservation. English is his second language. And so he was taken to the residential schools and to the boarding schools, and now we're starting to find out a little bit more about what had happened in that. He never really talked to me about it. So he ended out being Christianized. He ended up going to the army, then he went to seminary school for the Christian faith, where he met my mother, who is a full-blood Dutch woman. So I like to say I'm cowboys and Indians all up in here. But what that did was it kind of made me, we moved up to Denver from New Mexico. I was born on the reservation. Then we moved up to Denver when I was young so that we could have good schooling, good medical. But there was maybe one or two other red bodies. And I was a half body, and it was just really weird because my white Dutch cousins would say I'm the little Native American girl. My Native American cousins would call me the little white girl. So I really felt like I didn't have an identity. And then being raised in a household with two reverends, that was a very strict upcoming. And what happened was I was the one of the children that was called, quote unquote, called to be of service to the divine. And mind you, my father comes from a long line of spiritual leaders. My grandfather, shaman, my Aunt Alice, his little sister, high priestess of the peyote way, all of this. And so as I'm growing up, I'm learning and I'm just so open to whatever spirit has to show me. Well, what happened was I started to question the Christian faith and ask different questions, and that was a no-no. I'm talking nice about it, but basically I was asked to leave at the age of 17 because I wasn't following along and they felt like I fell from grace. And again, if you want to know more, pick up Believe, Being, and Beyond, the book that Wendy referring to. It has a lot of my story in there. So then I went out into the world all by myself, and I didn't want anything to do with spirituality. I felt like I was brainwashed. I was like confused. I was just a young kid. So I found myself going to school and working my way up the corporate ladder. And then at the age of 35, boom, Spirit called me back and is like, it's your turn now. And all of a sudden I have been studying and researching and curious and finding all about spirituality and finding it more in my Native American culture. So I now am what you would call a shaman, one who works with the natural world, from the Navajo Nation. So, I mean, that's it in the capsule.
Oh, well, I want to say that being called back, though, that came with a little bit of a health issue. I thought that was interesting that one leg gives out and then you're back in the swing of things and trying to do it again to demonstrate, I've got the black belt. Refresh that.
Yeah. So basically, I'm like I'm going to school and I'm full-time job, single mother, taking karate, working on towards my black belt, so at this point I look really good on paper, but the truth is I was distracting myself from myself. So Spirit decided, well, let's slow you down. That's kind of how I see it. And I was in a tournament or practicing for a tournament, and my ACL popped. And I was so disconnected from myself, I didn't go to the doctor. I just went home, put some ice on it, woke up the next day and went to work, mind you. And at that point, one of my colleagues was like, you need to go to the doctor. And I'm like, why? And they said, okay, if you can stand on only that leg, then I'll lay off. But if you can't stand on that leg that you're complaining about, if it buckles, you're going to the doctor. Deal? I said, deal. Anyway, it buckled. I'm at the doctor. I go in. They schedule me for surgery for the ACL, to repair the ACL. And I get a staph infection from that. First, I get a hematoma, right? So basically, from my toes all the way up to my hip, totally black, blue, purple, all of the colors. So I had to go back into surgery. And then I get a staph infection of the blood. And so I'm just like this single mom trying to figure out, how do I do this? And I find myself sitting in this room with people who are getting IVs at the infectious disease clinic. And I'm like, what am I doing here? Why do I have an IV in my arm? Like, I didn't understand what state I was in. I was in shock. And anyway, I had a PICC line. About 5 weeks later, I end up getting through that. And just in time where I go to a barbecue and boom, my other one pops. So I was down for the count for 9 months. And I didn't even realize that I was on my deathbed. Apparently what I had, only 10% of people survived. And so, but what it did was I couldn't distract myself anymore. I couldn't run away from the, whatever you want to call it, still small voice, the spirit voice, all of the things that were alive within my DNA, within myself. But I got taken down for the count and I got silent. I couldn't be distracted. I couldn't distract myself. And what ended up happening was I realized that I wasn't happy in corporate America. I realized that I wasn't happy. I felt like I wasn't myself. So I had to go find out who I am. I stepped into a metaphysical store, got my first tarot card reading, and they were just like, who are you? And I'm like, talk to me about my spirituality. And they're like, you are so charged with spiritual leadership. Who are you? And at that point, I didn't even know, but I had an inkling, because of my childhood and the line that I come from. And so that took me off to the races. The following year, I opened up Major Consulting LLC, doing business as Granddaughter Crow. And that was in 2008. And I've been doing this ever since.
The thing about it, though, as a kid, you had all of these expectations. the adults around you came to you for insight. And so that had to be confusing when you're finally saying, okay, this isn't my deal, when they kicked you out of the church and said, okay, you don't belong here because whatever you're doing is really spooky.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So basically, I was, quote unquote, the golden child when I was young. I saw visions. I did all of the, prophecy. I could pick up on people's pain. I could pick up on things. I helped people. I prayed for them and they got better and all of this stuff. And to the extent that people would the adults would come to the house and they'd say, where is she? And I would be doing this kind of stuff. I was open, right? And so my mother used to tell me, oh, when you were 40, when you were 4 years old, you were more like a 40-year-old woman. I guess what you'd call an old soul. But I still was just a child. And so then when I started questioning, well, how come, questions like, well, if God is love, then this is, mind you, way before the internet or anything like that. In the 70s, I'm like, if God is love, but there are people in the world that will never hear of him and they go to hell, how loving is that? Oh my goodness, blasphemy. They literally thought that I got possessed. And they were like, I don't know where my daughter is. I don't know who you are, but get out. And it was just like, whoa. And so then coming back, it was really kind of interesting because all of my gifts were still there. They never went away. I hid them from everybody as much as I could, but they were still there. But this time I got to explore in more of a metaphysical, open faith, spirituality based, all the stuff, all the classes on the crystals, all the classes on astrology, all the classes on everything. And I studied world religions and I just started seeing wow, my gifts weren't bad. I wasn't bad. I just questioned, and that shook the foundation of my parents' life. That's how they met, So yeah, it was intense. It was intense.
I like the poem that you offer that you wrote when you were 17, because this is a really big revelation at 17. Do you know it offhand, or should I read it from the book?
What is the poem?
Enlightenment, and I'm not an empty book.
Yep, I've got the pen in my own hand that will take me through the stages. I remember that part. Go ahead and read it for us, Wendy, if you wouldn't mind.
Oh, yeah. I'll start at the beginning. I'm not an empty book, so you can write the pages. I have a pen in my own hand that will take me through these stages. I know you try to make me more, but I'm all that I can be. I hope someday you'll understand my life is within me. Someday you'll look at me again and see somebody new. You'll see a little more of me and a little less of you.
Yeah.
It talks about projection. What we do to other people, we think that we know them because either, whatever, their lifestyle, their socioeconomic background, the color of their skin, their hair, whatever they're wearing. And we're so unable to look beyond that external. We forget that what's important is the internal. And that's what I think you address in this.
Yeah, it's absolutely correct. It's brilliant because I've never heard it read back to me. And so thank you for that. And you are absolutely right. It was projection. It's this idea that my parents, or at least my mother, was vicariously living through me and trying to make me the best version of herself. And, she really kind of was more about nurture versus nature. She thought that I was an empty book with, blank pages. Mm-hmm. And that was really, really difficult for me because in the very, very dogmatic, spiritualized, almost cult mentality that I grew up in, it was very, very much like emotions are the devil's playground. It was all about the spirit, and that nothing else mattered, and the rest of physical, emotional, and mental were all like bad places for the devil to play and distract us from our spirit. And so it was really difficult to be denied the idea that I had emotions. And it was really interesting. I mean, I guess the more that I watch documentaries on cults, I'm like, I kind of feel like I was in a little bit of a cult there, know?
Yeah.
But yeah, projection, absolutely. And the beauty is that in belief, being, and beyond, the beauty is whatever you believe in constitutes how you behave in the world, your beingness. But there's always something beyond that. And that, I think that poem was like the first part. Like, my mom believed something and she behaved and treated me in a certain way, but there was something more in me that was beyond.
For you to extricate yourself from that, and it took you till you were mid-30s and then had some health issues to say, okie dokie, time to get real.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
You're a medium. So you have when you're talking about having visions and doing prophecies and reading people and being able to heal them, that's a whole completely different universe from what you were being put into, and trying to put somebody into a shoe that doesn't fit. And when you decided that this was the real you, how did that work?
Oh, it took a long, long time. It was a very, very long, long journey of self-doubt, but it was also a very fun journey about being curious. And honestly, it's like feeling a sense of freedom, but then there's also this little nagging narrative in the back of my head from my childhood that was just like really ingrained in me. It wasn't like I just woke up one day and I was like, yay, I'm going to be me. I didn't know who me was, so I started simple. And I started by going, what do, corporate America says, this is the way you got to dress, design, fashion, this is what you got to do, culture, this is what you got to eat, this is what you got to listen to. So I decided to start asking myself very basic questions, like, what do I feel comfortable wearing? What do I want to eat tonight? Just very basic questions. And then I started braiding my hair, and I started letting my Navajo-ness shine a little bit more, because it's not rare, but it is very rare to run into another Navajo in Denver, Colorado. I mean, I don't know maybe it's powwow, but it's not like you can go into the grocery store and you just bump into, red bodies.
Yeah.
So it took me a long time, and I had to go. When I was young, I was like, am I Dutch enough? Do I look like the little white bodies that I'm, in school with? Am I Navajo enough? Do I, am I allowed to, sing Jesus Loves Me on the pulpit when I'm 5 years old in Navajo? It was always am I enough? And I'm half and half. And I've even been called a half-breed by the red bodies and the white bodies. And so it was very difficult trying to find my true identity. But the way that I ended up doing it was, I think the divine helped me, but I really just felt curious. I just led with my curiosity. And that's the part of the story, Wendy, that I was kind of talking about at the beginning, that I thought my story was so unique until I released it and found out that my story, although it is unique in its own right, it is the story of feeling projection when you're a child, being told that you need to be a certain way when you're not on the inside, and finding out who you are organically, even in the face of losing your biological family. So I think that's the biggest mission that I had in my life. So now I sit here on the other side of that. Mind you, I still might have a trip out every once in a while going, what do I want? I don't know,
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, I am here to encourage, to inspire, and to empower people to find their authenticity through questioning and curiosity, so that we are who Creator created us to be, instead of a product of our society.
Well, when you look at your list of accomplishments and going into the corporate world and doing, I mean, you had children and you were busy and you have all these things that you were, this list of things to do, check, 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 check. And then to come back to this where it's like, okay, I'm listening. Where do I need to be? Who can I help? What do I bring to the table? That's, I think, a lot more authentic because you're not sucked into somebody else's automated kind of, in so many ways, lockstep program. You're saying we are our own creators. That's what I think you're trying, or you have accomplished successfully, saying that this is me, this is who I am, and this is how I do it, and you can too.
Yes, absolutely. And that kind of brings me to another wonderful topic about, the idea of creator, and also the idea of us being creator, and also the idea of being a co-creator. So there are times in my life where I need to see the divine as a parent, like as somebody, an instructor, somebody to tell me which way to go. But there are times in my life when the divine looks at me and says, no, you tell me which way you want to go. And I found that the divine, when I need it to be an authority figure in my life, it will do that for me. But the more that I grow, the more it has become my partner, even though it is so much more vast than I am a part of it. And so, taking the liberty to connect with the divine and allow it to help you to create your own life on purpose.
There's a lot going on right now, a lot of chaos, a lot of stress, a lot of fear, and people projecting worst case scenario, end of times, and all of that. How do you help people redirect their focus and redirect their energy into remaining in power, remaining in presence?
Yeah, it's the first thing that I do, because sometimes when you have a person, or when you experience what you just described, that chaos and that fear, and maybe even being triggered and feeling unsafe, or what, all of these things, sometimes what I have to do is I have to come in with a 1-2 punch really quickly and shoot it from the hip to shock the person out of it. So this is what I will say. I, as a Navajo, am living proof that the U.S. government cannot erase a people, a culture. That's what I say. And my father went through a lot of that. Now, I'm not trying to get political at all, but I'm just saying that I am living proof that it doesn't happen. And I am still here. And so then the second thing I would say is, believe in yourself. Turn off for 3 minutes in the morning, for 3 minutes at night, if not longer. Turn off all social media, all computers. Disconnect from that grid for 3 minutes. Breathe. Literally just breathe. Sit maybe in your backyard, in your kitchen, in your dining room, in your living room, wherever you feel comfortable, and look around and just say what it is that you can actually see, not something way out there, a thought, an unformed thought or something. Just go, oh, look, there's a clock on the wall. There's my lamp. And when you start breathing and returning to where you are right now, your body starts regulating. Your nervous system starts regulating once again, so that the next time that you have to go out there and engage with the world, you know how to come back and regulate quicker and quicker and quicker, so that you can keep your nervous system in check.
When I was meditating, I was saying, okay, I want to raise my vibration, and I want to raise my vibration high enough that I can be in frequency, higher frequency with the earth. And I will do that and bring the earth's frequency up with me. And I got this quick redirect. No. The earth's frequency is already higher than you. You need to go a little higher to match that. You're not bringing the earth's frequency up. And they said, and the response was, that's how the Aborigines connect with nature, is they don't see themselves above it. They see themselves reaching and striving to be that high to maintain contact. And I thought, oh, I didn't think of it like that. And so, but that feeling of wanting to raise my frequency, my vibration, the language we use is always a little challenging, but trying to be more in tune with my surroundings and with earth and with all of that. So I thought, so I got that quick redirect. No. You are not higher, kiddo. You are raising it to become in frequency, in tune, in sync with the divine around you. It's like, oh, okay, that helped.
I agree with you 100%. I mean, here's the interesting thing. When we start realizing that we are a part of nature and that we need to rebalance ourselves with it, and that it is our greatest teacher, that tree has consciousness. And when you touch it, on some level, its consciousness knows that you're touching it. Maybe it's the heat. Maybe it's a little bit of the shade. I don't exactly know. Maybe, when the next time you see a hawk or an eagle or a raven or a crow, know that it saw you first. Start dialoguing with it instead of just simply observing it.
Yeah.
Be a part of it. Remember that you're a part of it. So I love that. I love that you said that.
Well, there's so much going on right now, and it's easy to get distracted by the daily drama, whatever it happens to be. There's always going to be something, and throughout our history, there always has been something. So what happens, I think, right now is that we are being given an opportunity, and not just given, but like you had with your health issue. It's like there's no getting around this. There's going through it. And so patterning in ways that are in some way self-revealing and self-preserving. And that's why when I saw your book and saw some of the things that you went through as you approach this throughout this book, and I'm looking forward to the next one. It's on shamanism, is that correct?
Yeah, the next one is coming out February 2025, and so just any day now. And it is shamanism and your shadow, doing shadow work from a shamanistic natural world perspective, releases the shame and blame and guilt and all of that kind of stuff that immediately attaches us when we're like, oh, my shadow, it must be evil. And it's like,
it's the perfect time. It's the perfect time because I think that's what we're being shown. That's what, when you're looking at the reminders that Auschwitz isn't a fantasy, that the Native American, the schools that your father going to become more acclimated and westernized. Those are the words I'm using. Okay. Assimilated is probably a better term, but that kind of thing is real. And to me, that's shadow work. That's saying, okay, let's take ourselves up to the next level. How can we be more empathetic and compassionate and appreciative of the diverse cultures that we have been born into?
I love that. That is beautiful, understanding our collective shadow even, and our wanting to run or hide from it and ignore it, and now realizing, wait a second, let's look at this. And I love it because thoughts are things, words create, working with words that are like, this is my opportunity to work with my shadow. All of that kind of stuff, reframing it in a way that actually makes your inner child get happy because we're going on another adventure. And there is something that is bigger and greater than ourselves. And it is talking with us and communicating with us all the time. And it's really kind of beautiful. So like take a walk in the natural world and then come back and recognize, okay, let's get to work here, people. Let's breathe, center, and find community. Listen to podcasts. Get your spirit fed. Breathe. Very basic. And then that helps your nervous system to go ahead and let's do this together. We are on another hero's journey collectively, right?
Yeah, yeah. I wonder, being a shaman, you have to have had some extraordinary metaphysical, paranormal encounters. Is there one that stands out that you could share?
Oh gosh. I would say, Gosh, there's so many. Okay, this is where my mind goes. So when I was about 35, when we were talking about, when I finally woke up and got my little shift and change and redirect and woke up. And one of the things that happened was I picked up a book on plants and animals from a metaphysical store. And the back of it was this CD. And so I put the CD in my CD player and these drums started. And I was like, oh, this is so relaxing, just the beat of a Native American drum. And so I just laid down on my couch, closed my eyes, and all of a sudden I found myself on the reservation right outside of a hogan.
We disconnected. Okay, so you took a little trip. Really, as you started that, it said, I found myself right outside of a hogan, and that's where it ended. Okay, that's kind of not fair. You didn't take us along with you. Okay, so let's try that again and let's see if it will allow you to share this story.
Yeah. I am talking about different dimensions, so it makes sense.
Yes.
So basically, in short, I go into this meditation, writing the beat of the drum, which is a very natural, organic thing. And I find myself outside of a hogan where there was this Native American man, and he showed me so many wonderful things. I spent so much time with him and, returning on a daily basis in meditation, finding him, learning, growing. And then one day I went there, and it was all dark and rainy. And I went into the hogan, and I used to sit across from him with a fire in between. And he looked at me and he said, it's your turn. Come take my seat. And I said, what? Where are you going? And there were these light beings, really tall, white pillar beings that were very indifferent to me. And they took him away. Mm-hmm. And I'm left there crying because my friend is gone. And he told me to take his position as the shaman. It finally dawned on me that I was talking to my grandfather. I was talking to my grandfather, which is why I'm called Granddaughter Crow. He passed away when he was around 35 years old. So he was showing up as younger in that state. And I was just like, this is really crazy. This is really wild. I must be making this up. So then I decided to go into a guided meditation and go talk to my Aunt Alice. And so I just okay, yep, I'm now imagining I'm going to talk to Aunt Alice. Oh, look, she is going to send me this rock or whatever. She hands me a rock in this meditation. Long story short, a week later, in the mail, my Aunt Alice had shipped me a rock that was a complete, I guess it would be a shaman stone. And she said, isn't it interesting how the Creator created us to be in circle, which we were in circle together in the meditation. So it was at that moment I was like, okay, all of that is real. It is very real.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's fantastic because when you get that kind of validation that you are multidimensional, and just because someone doesn't have a physical body, we can still connect in spirit.
Big time. Absolutely. That's exactly right. And the easiest way that I can explain that is Einstein says all is energy. All is energy. Energy cannot be created nor destroyed. It simply changes form, which means that, I am energy. You are energy. Our impressions that we make on this world is energy. And our emotions hold energy. Our mind holds energy. The past holds energy. Everything is energy. And so if you can slow yourself down, all you do is connect with specific energy. And there it is. That's the best way I could describe what I do. Yeah.
Have you ever had contact with the beings that you saw who escorted your grandpa away?
I know who they are. They were very indifferent to me. They were I think they were like archangels. Some would describe as archangels. I think some would describe them as Palladian. Some people would describe them as alien. it was just his next cycle, and I needed to take his place here. So, yeah.
I've had experiences like that, and it's amazing. I don't know how we have a perfect language to describe these kinds of the beings and the next level and where they go. We're at a whole different place in our cycle, in our consciousness. But I think there's a lot more right now coming forward where people are beginning to make these transitions and seeing that there is a lot more happening beyond our sight capability. And once we raise our vibration and meet with Mother Earth and other elements around us, whether it's trees or animals or, grass, rocks, then it's a much brighter and broader spectrum of reality. And I think that's fantastic. And that's part of, as a shaman, you are adept at dealing with. So when you're doing a reading, a medium type reading, do you see the other beings around your client?
Yeah, what happens is I ask the divine to show up as it reveals itself to the client. So basically, if the client believes in the angels will appear. If the client is like maybe a Buddhist, then it's a different imaging. So, but yes, and I also request that I want whatever comes forward to be of pertinence to that person at this point. So it's interesting because that shifts the energy and it kind of hones it in to be like who the client is used to dealing with on the spiritual unseen transitional planes, and something that is actually going to be impactful to them at this point. So different clients will come in at different times over the years, and I'll see different things with them. And then sometimes I keep going, oh, there's a wolf. Oh, there's a wolf. And she'll say, oh, you always see the wolf with me. And I'm like, I do? So yeah. And so I kind of hone it in so I'm not just calling in everything, because I would get overstimulated and maybe a message, it wouldn't be crystal clear for their life. So yeah, I definitely, I see them, I hear them. I'm very empathic. I feel it. I feel it in my body. I feel it in my heart. I hear things in my mind. Yeah, don't commit me. There's validation that this is actually true.
Well, a lot of people do connect with animals, and that resonates because I believe animals are our teachers as well. And I've had some pets who were specifically chosen, not by me. I tried to get around that, but I had a German Shepherd that I was guided to work with, and I was the project. Okay, I didn't think that that's the way it worked, but I discovered that's exactly the way it works. This one was supposed to work with me, and I was a challenge, and I thought, oh my, it gave me a way of really appreciating and feeling, I guess maybe guilty that I hadn't seen that as a way that it could work before, and thinking, well, I wasn't such a good human because I missed the value and my responsibility to be more receptive and more open to my pets, to the animals that I was that were in my space, and that includes natural animals when you're out in the world and walking in nature, being tuned into who's ever showing up on your path. And that was something that was huge. This dog taught me so much. And then when he left, it was that he came back to visit in spirit. But these things, I think, are part of our reality that give us permission to be more than what we are in the physical.
Absolutely. First, I would like to say, you don't know until you know. That's all there is to it.
Yeah.
And now we know. But there's also, Wendy, another book that I had written called Wisdom of the Natural World. And it's interesting because the different things that we keep talking about with Mother Earth being our teacher, and it's about plants and animals guiding us and giving us spiritual and practical teachings for health and well-being, relationships, business, and finance. So I'll try to get you one of those books, but that might be something you would be interested in too. But it absolutely is true, because animals open up, what I have observed is animals open up a natural receptor within us, irregardless of race, creed, color. Wherever you land on the face of this earth, there is some sort of a representation of a connection with an animal, even be it spiritually. And so when we start opening ourselves up to the wisdom of the natural world, to include that some of our greatest teachers are the ones that are, that we get to house and call our pets or our dog or whatever, that they actually came in that form because that's what we would actually pay attention to. Yeah. I find that brilliant. Yes.
If this one, the guides came in and said, I didn't want a dog. I had a dog as a kid, and dogs were high maintenance. You have to take him for a walk. All right. So that's high maintenance. The cat, not a problem. So I was like, I'm not going to have a dog. But I was given this, the other is coming. The other is coming. Like, what the heck? And having no clue, of course, which is the whole point. So you're not projecting and expecting. And so when this dog showed up and I had an opportunity to foster, my husband said, that's not going to happen. He's going to stay with us. He ran away after a week. And I was like, well, okay, I guess it didn't work. And I had that same thing as you have to make a commitment. You and this dog have to commit to work together. And so I'm like, okay, fine. I know what I'm doing. I will commit to work with this dog. He came walking down the sidewalk. Apparently, he had gone out after a squirrel, couldn't figure out how to get back in, and somebody up the street probably fed him, and then he got away from them too. Ha ha ha. But we worked together, and I had post-traumatic stress from some stuff, and it was the first after he came to be with me, I was able to sleep through the night. And that had not happened in 10 years. So, and I didn't realize that. I didn't really know that had been a problem. It was my habit, my lifestyle. And I was, oh my gosh, I'm able to sleep. So there's more to that. But that part of it was that I was given the knowledge, the insight that he was coming to help me. And not me taking care of him and having to worry about, his routine. But it was amazing. So it was amazing. And those kinds of things, I think, are what we learn when we connect with another being who happens to be an animal.
Yes, I agree. And that's so beautiful to look at everything as a teacher, to lose the idea that you have to know everything now, and just stay curious and keep learning, seeing life as an opportunity to listen, to learn, to question, kind of returning back to that inner playful child that lies within all of us. They're so curious. They're so innocent. There's so much freedom there. There's so much excitement for the next adventure. They don't even know how to project, It's just that beauty and kind of walking through the world and almost like with that mindfulness really kind of lets a lot of enlightenment roll in. Yes.
When you work with people, and you do offer on your website, there's a way to get in touch with you, granddaughtercrow.com. Okay, so that's an easy way. You also do podcasts too, so people can, if they have an issue, do they go ahead and set up an appointment, or do you suggest the podcast first? What's the protocol?
I almost think that we're just back to whatever makes them curious, whatever makes them curious. If they are like, maybe they got a referral, maybe they're listening to this podcast and they're like, oh man, I want to talk to her about XYZ. Just go to www.granddaughtercrow.com and sign up for one-on-one. I do Zoom and phone, so we don't have to be in the same city or country, quite frankly. But then on the flip side, if you're just like, oh, well, she has a nice voice and some curious ideas, what is she all about? Hit the podcast where I interview just wonderful, amazing people, where I bring great people to great people talking about all these beautiful things, the unseen world, belief systems. Yeah.
Now, I love now that we have so many ways to connect via the internet, that when I started doing this 30 years ago or so, beyond, we didn't have the ability to connect, to contact people, to listen to stories, to find out histories, to be able to, with a touch of a button, talk to somebody in Australia or Canada, it's anywhere. Now, we have so many more opportunities to get to know people and learn about their cultures and find out, for me, especially the metaphysical stuff, that people are sharing their stories. Before, it was and I'm not going to use the language, but it was derogatory. And the fear-based of, well, you can't have a vision, you can't have an encounter, you can't have a spiritual experience because that's only for saints. Well, how did a saint get started? Okay, it's like they didn't, So a lot of that is dogma, and to say that is somehow not, we're human and we aren't able to have these experiences. I think that's becoming a past. I hope it's becoming a past issue, and that now that we're understanding that we have these experiences, and it makes us more human, it makes us more real. That's what I see as a potential in this reality that is happening in front of us.
Absolutely. I think that that's really great. I do think that we all have gifts. We just lived in a society with this dogma for such an extended amount of time that we had to convince ourselves that we don't and try to fall asleep to it. But if every single person that is listening to this podcast right now, you have some sort of spiritual gift. That's what I believe. That's what I see. And it's about how does that commune with you, and that you have the liberty to experience it. And moreover, the beauty is that sometimes, just like with me when I was 35 on my deathbed for 9 months, I needed that darkness, that shock, to wake me up to who I am. And so whatever you might be experiencing in your life right now that you might label darkness or whatever, your deathbed, whatever, maybe that's here to give you the opportunity to reconnect and remember who and what you truly are, all of your gifts, connect with other beings, sentient beings, animal beings, people beings, and come back to life. Come back to life.
Well, the book, The Journey of Soul, The Path of a Medicine Person, I think is perfect for this time that we are living, because in this, you address that difficult time, the things that are challenging that all of a sudden appear on our path, and we think, oh, what have I done wrong? No. It's what you've done right to bring you to the point where you're now ready to heal this, whatever it is, aspect of your life. And that's where we are. I think we are being asked, invited, encouraged to heal.
I agree 100%. I think the best way that I could explain what we're saying is sometimes you have to go through the dark tunnel, and sometimes it's really painful in order to be born into enlightenment. And my first physical experience with that is literally being born as a baby. And that process teaches us that this is okay. And I like to say I'm not a medicine person because my life was so easy. I am a medicine person because I have been to hell and back a handful of times. And if you find yourself in some sort of hell, or you find yourself in a depression or a confusion, chances are I can find you, and I'm not going to lead you out of it. I'm not going to push you out of it, but I'm going to sit with you until you get the strength to walk out of it. And I will be right there bearing witness to your strength, to your resilient ability, and I will be right beside you. That's kind of what I do through my books, through the podcast, through the one-on-one sessions.
Excellent. Okay, so granddaughtercrow.com, that's the website. Your book's available at Barnes & Noble, Amazon, wherever you buy books. And the insight, if you are needing more and contact, then you can schedule at your convenience an encounter, an appointment with Granddaughter Crow. How's that?
Yeah.
I'm going to put you to work.
Yeah.
Hopefully. A good work in a good way. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. It's not all dark. It's also light and laughter and love and fun and goofy animals who decide that they're going to be your teacher, whether you want one or not. Oh, that hurts. It's painful.
I love it.
They show up. All right. So thank you. I appreciate your time. I love what you're doing, and I'm looking forward to just, seeing how this goes for all of us, because this is a challenging time, no doubt about it. But there are things that are happening that we've never experienced before, and that is extraordinary. So that's what I'm looking to see, how we come through that.
I love it. Thank you so much for doing what you do, Wendy.
Hello, it is Ryan, and I was on a flight the other day playing one of my favorite social spin slot games on ChumbaCasino.com. I looked over at the person sitting next to me, and you know what they were doing? They were also playing Chumba Casino. Everybody's loving having fun with it. Chumba Casino is home to hundreds of casino-style games that you can play for free anytime, anywhere. So sign up now at ChumbaCasino.com to claim your free welcome bonus. That's ChumbaCasino.com and live the Chumba life.
Sponsored by Chumba Casino. No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 18 plus. Terms and conditions apply.